So we're going to, by my own outline here, we're going to do introduction, and we'll go to some conceptual issues where we will look at the policy, law, we'll look at guideline, look at social welfare policy as a concept, and also briefly go through the social welfare services that we have in Nigeria. We'll give some examples of these social welfare policies. What are the functions of social welfare policy? Factors that impact on social welfare policy. Then we'll go to process of policy making, otherwise known as cycle of policy making. And we'll also examine some of the legal frameworks or some legal instruments that we have as regards policy consideration. And such legal instrument that we'll consider are Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. We can also consider the National Gender Policy, the National Social Protection Policy, as well as other relevant laws or regulations that have a relationship with the policy formulation. Most essentially, we're going to look at our own act, the act establishing the institute as a chartered one. Then after that, we'll also consider the process of child adoption. That is the adoption procedures. The adoption procedures. And I think with that, that is legal procedure for adoption of a child in Nigeria. We do not have much to discuss here, except when we get to the consideration of some legal instruments that we have under that are related to this course. So by way of introduction, the idea of social welfare, is a practice that is common to all societies all over the world. The social welfare is not a new concept. We've been hearing about this social welfare, that social welfare. And of course, if one is not even familiar with social welfare, but you must have heard what the government is doing with regards to improving the welfare of its citizens. And I want to believe the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria is not a new document to any of us. If you have not read it, it's important that you find time to go through and see where the social welfare aspect is considered or is concerned in the Constitution. So whether the society is traditional or modern, the social welfare has always been part of the function that the society will want to do over our citizens. So that is to say, governments all over the world, be it national, subnational, or at the local government level, each government will always want to promote the welfare of its citizens. And whatever programs or projects or any policy or any service that is being provided for under these guys will definitely see to the well-being of any individual living in that society or within the jurisdiction of that government. In different ages of history, social welfare had played its importance and has been very, very relevant to the development of human beings in history. During Renaissance period, as well as during Industrial Revolution era, the social welfare has been an important concept and an important service that has been provided by different people looking at the welfare of its citizens. Again, religious organizations, they are not left out of those that provide social welfare services to its members or to the congregation. We have heard about charity organization society in the history of social welfare, what the charity society organizations did in UK then cannot be overemphasized. So that's any program that the government design to better the lot of its citizens, to improve the standard of living of its citizens, to ensure that the citizens, all our citizens are well placed or are taken from one poverty level to a better level. Such a program will be seen to be a social welfare program, in as much as it is designed to raise or to make life more meaningful for its citizens. So in this case, we'll quickly go to what is a policy. We are doing this for us to form a background of where exactly we are going, for us to have a comprehensive understanding of, of the costs, which is the social welfare policy. A policy is a deliberate system of guidance, a deliberate system of government to guide decisions and achieve rational outcomes. A policy could also be a statement of intent and is implemented as a procedure or protocol. So there are so many definitions of policy, and policies are generally adopted by a government body within an organization. What we are saying here is a policy could be a statement of intent, what the government intends to do, how best to go about that program, that to achieve its aim or its intention, and how best and what procedure, what steps to take to ensure that that particular objective is achieved. So it's just a deliberate system that is put in place by either government or anyone or organization. A policy is that which outlines what a government is going to do and what it can achieve for the society as a whole. It involves the principles that are needed for achieving the goal. It involves the principles that are needed for achieving the goal. We need to know that policy, of course, you are aware of the fact that people say that we have this policy, we have that policy, this is the government position on this is what the government intends to do on this and that. And of course, there are personal policies as well, there are organizations' policies, there are societies' policies. All these policies, we are aware of them all around us. But essentially, we looking deeply into government policy in this respect. Why? Because government is seen as the overall umbrella, or as the overall boss of everyone, as the overall leader of everybody, because government is the highest owner, or how do I put it? Or government is the custodian of all resources, the higher custodian or the best custodian of all resources. Government is the richest of everybody that may proclaim that he has resources. So what I'm saying is, no individual is richer than government. No individual is bigger than government. No individual has power more than the government. So government is in the position to make provision for the well-being of its citizens. That is why you find out that of the primary function of any government is to ensure that the citizens are well protected and the citizens are well taken care of, that the essential means of livelihood are provided by the government. That is why when you see chapter 2 of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria as amended, you will see that in that chapter, the fundamental function of government with regard to the welfare of its citizens are well spelled out in that chapter. So in essence, we are saying that policy is that which outline what a government is going to do. That is why we are looking at the government in that perspective, because it is government alone that can make provision for all this. No individual can do that. The resources being controlled by government are enormous. No individual has that power to control such resources. That is why the emphasis is on government policy, because it's only government that can make law that will affect everybody in the society. The only government that can just regulate whatever every individual, in as much as you are a citizen, whatever you are doing, it is government that can do that. So the policies can assist in both subjective and objective decision making. Policy also reflects strategy to achieve set goals and objectives. So I want us to know that policy, they are just documents. Policy are just documents. They are only documents. They are not laws. But these policies can lead to new laws. So as we go on, I will try to distinguish between law and policies. But many people, they do interchange the two, but they are different. Policies are no laws, but policy can lead us to formulate or to enact a law that will become binding on everybody. That is why up to today, the policy that the government put in place, nobody can challenge those policies anywhere because there are no laws. The policies that are put in place, there are no laws. And of course, you can also remember the different kind of policy that we have had in this country. We have policies in different areas. We have policies in different areas. We have, even of recent, of course, you can't forget that one in Anori, the whole subsidy policy. You have several policies. We have education policy, we have child policy, youth policy, women or gender policies. We have so many policies in place in the country as regards the welfare of the citizen. So different sector of the Nigerian government, all of them, they have several policies. So as we have a bigger policy in a bigger perspective, we also have policy that are specific to certain ministry or that are specific to certain sector of the economy. Just like we have education policy, we have agricultural policy of the government, and the establishment policies, all these are there, but the extent to which we make use of all these policy is a question for another time. What are the types of policy that we have? We have public policy, we have organizational policy, like I explained, different organizations with its own policy or with their own policies. Then functional, that has to do with the function that that policy intend to perform. Then we have some specific policies that address specific problem problem. I'm very sure you are aware of what is happening in the Northeast, what is happening in the Northwest with regards to Boko Haram and what do we call it? This banditry. Because of this development, and the time we had this resource control agitation from the South, most especially from the South, The government came up with different policy to address all these problems, to address all these issues. That is why there is a policy in place that address the care for the people in the ID camp. That is this internally displaced persons camps. There are policies that guide the operation of those IDP camps, as well as similar camps like that. The refugee policy that we have in the country, that is a document that guides the operation of the refugee camp and so on and so forth, and so many like that. All these are developed or were formulated to address some issues that affect the well-being of the citizens in the country. So, what are the key elements of policy? The key element that we have in the policy are: one, problem definition. Problem definition, that is definition of a problem. There must be a problem which will actually engineer or trigger the formulation of a policy. If there is no issue, definitely there can't be any policy. People will not think, how do we solve this this problem? Of course, when this new regime, this new government took over on May 29, 2023, in the speech of Mr. President, he specifically said the oil subsidy regime is gone and is gone forever. And that became a policy immediately. That became a policy immediately. And as a result of that, that trigger a number of problems in the country. Then we had increase in the fuel pump price, inflation, high cost of transportation, and so on and so forth. And the federal government actually realized that. And what did the government do then? They try to introduce a palliative scheme, and that palliative scheme, it became a policy. They developed a policy on how best to distribute palliative to alleviate the suffering that people may even experience as a result of oil subsidy removal. And that's because of that problem, because of what happened, government had to go to the drawing board and came up with a policy on on alleviating that the sovereign, or alleviating the hardship occasioned by the removal of the oil subsidy. Otherwise, government wouldn't have done anything on that. Whether the policy is good or not, that's the question for another time. Whether the policy is effective or is not effective, or is addressing the problem or is not addressing the problem, that's a problem. That is a question of another time. That is the problem definition. There must be a problem on ground. The current situation will have necessitated the need for such a policy. That is why we say of the element of all the important elements, of the key element of policy is problem definition. There is no policy you will see that you will not see in that policy, in the introduction part of the policy, or in the major part of the policy, that you will not find the problems that will be defined, the problem that necessitated the formulation of that policy. No such policy document is in existence that you will not see that the problems that led to the formulation of that policy will not be found. Then in the policy, the other elements that are very key in the policy, they are goals and objectives to be achieved. You see, goals are stated in broader terms. Goals are what we want to achieve, the overall aim of formulating a policy, or the overall aim of even putting in place that policy. That will be our goal. But the objective will break it down into achievable terms so that all this can be measured and it can also be known whether it can be monitored, it can be measured, and we can also determine whether the objectives, whether the goals are being achieved through those specific objectives. In essence, what I'm saying in essence is that the objectives are stated in specific terms, while goals are stated in general terms. So it is only the objective that you can measure to know whether you are performing or you are not performing, whether the performance is has improved or not, or you are still stagnant, whether all the strategies you have put in place or the procedure you are also envisaged through the formulation of that policy or while implementing that policy, whether the procedure is effective or whether the procedure can actually lead you to get to the destination. That is to achieving why you have put in place the policy in the first place. Then in the other key elements of policy are the instrument to address the problem and achieve the goal and objective. So we are talking about what are the strategies that you will use to make you, to enable you achieve the objective of that policy. That is, what are those things you have put in place to address those problems or to solve the problems you have identified. Because you have identified a gap, you have identified a problem, you have seen a problem that is a problem on ground, and you want to remove that problem. You want to ensure that the problem is no more there. Going to the example I cited on the oil subsidy removal. The oil subsidy removal is a federal government policy that has just been put in place, even though ill thought and even ill timed. So when that was done, what's supposed to have been done before the removal was not done. That is why we are having problem. It was after the announcement, it was after the policy is read or is actually given to the people, when the government was trying to justify why that is necessary. They were trying to look for solutions. It shouldn't be. The policy process was wrong in the first instance. So looking for the solution, we want to now determine whether those measures, those packages, those programs, those palliatives that have been put in place, have they been able to address the problem? Have they been able to solve the problem? Have they removed the hardship that the common citizen, ordinary citizen of the country are facing? So these are the key elements in any policy that will have any policy that could be said to be a good policy. So you need to know those instruments, those strategies, and how best the method you are going to use to achieve the goal and objectives. So that is just about the policy as a concept. Again, I quickly want to draw our attention to law. It is important that I try to define this and I try to let you know what law is as different from the policy. Laws are set standards. Law or act, as the case may be. There are several laws that are banned in our society. And what are these laws? Laws only set standards. Law only set principles. Law set procedure. And a law is framed or is made to implement justice in society, to ensure that the society is just. Otherwise, people will just be behaving the way they like if there are no laws. If there are no laws, people will be doing things the way they like. For example, where there is no law, there can't be any order. There can't be any justice. So the might will just be will just be will just be violating the right of others. Those that have will just be jeopardizing the right of those that do not have. The laws, I mean the minors, the majors will be trampling upon the minors because of what? Because there are no law that will regulate the behavior of every citizen. So laws regulate the behavior of the citizen by setting standards. This is what we want you to do, and this is the way you must do it. This is the way. It's not just ordinary document. It will set that standard, and it will set the procedure, it will set the principle on the way we need to do it. A law is framed for bringing justice to the society. Laws are administered through the court and enforceable.
Hey, Sister Ella, did you get my payment?
Yes, I did. I've already registered.
Okay, all right.
So, before that interruption, I was saying that a law is framed to bring justice to the society. Law is made for us to have justice in the society. Otherwise, people will just be cheating. Some will be cheating others. And essentially, laws are administered through courts and enforceable. So if a law is made, there will be penalty. There will be sanction for violating that law or for actually not doing the right thing at the right time. That is, if a law, if as a person you do not follow the law accordingly, you can be taken to court, and you can be sued for doing what? For not doing the right thing, for violating certain section of that law. That is why I said initially that in the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, the Chapter 2, which talks about the social welfare responsibilities of government, that chapter is not justiciable. That chapter is not justiciable. How do I mean? You cannot take government to court on that chapter, because it is stated in that chapter that this chapter is not justiciable. All others, you can just take government for the interpretation of that. So it means that any law that will be made at all must not be made contrary, must not be made to
Are you
contradict
serious?
what we have in chapter 2. Can the IT mute those persons talking at the background? Okay, so it means that nobody can take government to court and ask government to enforce it. But in other laws that are made, apart from that chapter of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, all laws, they can be applicable. That is to say that you can enforce it at the court of law. That is why they are called court of laws, because when you get there, they interpret the law for you. They let you know the law. They let you know what the law says and why you have actually run against any section of the law or any part of the law. So let us just juxtapose policy and law. Let's distinguish between the law and policy. Policy, like I said, is an outline of government intention, while law sets standard, principles, and procedures. Policy targets what to do for the society. Policy targets what to do for the society to better the lot of the society, to improve the welfare of the people. That is what policy targets. While law is made for implementing justice, just to ensure that there is justice. Then what the policy talks about what it can achieve for the society, while law is about what to bring, or the law is to bring justice in the society. Policy is only a document that can lead to law, and while law can only be administered through courts, if I take that again, policy is a document that can lead to law. The meaning is that a policy that is formulated can be used, can be reviewed, can be looked at thoroughly, and ensure that that policy we can now generate a law from that policy. That is, a law can be made on that policy. When it becomes law, it means you can take that thing to court and enforce whatever aspect or section that you want to enforce. That's the difference. But policy cannot be used as a document that you can tender in court. It cannot be used as law in court. You cannot make reference to that in court, and the court will just accept it from you. That's the difference between. But that is why you see these civil society groups. They agitate. They agitate mostly. They agitate mostly for the enactment of law in respect of certain policies, because they want to take government to task. That is why they always agitate that such a policy must be made law. And the government too will hesitate to do that, because the government at any level knows the implication. The government at any level knows the implication. A good example is this national gender policy that I want to refer you to. The national gender policy has to do with the policy in respect of equal treatment of all human beings, especially the women. Give equal opportunity to women just like the men. So that is all about the gender policy. Now, because government at any level or government at all level are not respecting the terms, all that are in that policy, government at all level do not take it with seriousness. For instance, the 35 affirmative action is part of that policy, that 35% of any elective positions will be given to women. But the government is not respecting this. So due to pressure from some civil society groups and some well-meaning individuals and stakeholders that are much more concerned about women development, they pressurize government to ensure that there is this VAP law. The VAP law try to confirm or promote the fundamental human right of women. Most especially, they try to promote or ensure that the fundamental human rights of women are well protected. So that is you can see the major difference in that, and you can see the basis of law and the policy. So policy in some cases will be used. Some of the terms in policy will be used to ensure that we have law that can be administered through court. Then the policy are to achieve certain goals, like we said, to achieve certain goals and objectives, while law are enforceable. You cannot enforce policy. Like I said, you can't enforce policy. Look at the standard of education that we have in the country now. You can't force government, you can't take government to court and say, Mr. Government, or the government has not provided the right education. So in that wise, government must be sanctioned for this, for that. Nobody can do that and succeed. One will just be wasting his or her own time by going to court, because you cannot enforce it. You can't just mandate. You can't make government do that compulsorily. No, government will do it as it feels it can do, as it feels it can do. Then the policy complies with law. There's no policy that will run contrary to an established law. No, it's not possible. The policy will always comply with law, while the law is more formal than the policy. Just the policy is informal, it's just a statement, just a document, but law derived for the welfare and equity in society. Law is derived designed for the welfare and equity in the society. Don't forget that I talk about justice, and that is just equity, that no individual is above the other. We are all equal. So if I have access to education, if Mr. A has access to education, Mr. B should also have that access to that opportunity. That is what law is all about. So, and we'll go to procedure. We'll go to procedure. All these are where are related. That is why I'm taking it one after the other. A procedure details mandatory steps, sometimes in the form of checklist, someone needs to follow to achieve a renewed task or comply with a policy. The mandatory step that you need to take to actually arrive at your destination. Such is a procedure. For instance, all of you or all of us know how a ladder looks like. You know, in a ladder, you have the first step, you have the second step, and so on and so forth. So those steps you are taking, you take one, that is one procedure, go to the other one, you get to the another one. It's those mandatory steps. It's important for you to first of all take the first step that is closer to the ground before you take the next one and before you take the upper one. It's like climbing an upstairs, or you are climbing a staircase. You can't jump, you start from the lowest to the highest. That is exactly what the procedure is all about. There are mandatory steps that you need to take, and for you to follow or to achieve a certain task. You want to pick something from the upstairs, what you do is you have to go through the staircase. If you don't go through the staircase, there's no way you can get to that destination to pick whatever you want to pick at that upstairs. So this procedure can include step-by-step instructions or statement telling you when something needs to go and where you also need to go, or what you also need to do for you to get whatever you want to get. It means that it has to be step by step. You can't drop one and go to the other one. The 6334 system of education that we have in the country indicates that you spend 6 years in primary school, 3 years in junior secondary school, another 3 years in senior secondary school, then 4 years in the university. So you can't leave primary school and just go to the university. That is just a procedure for you to follow. You must do it. It's compulsory that you do it. Or it's like you are in primary one, you go from primary one, primary two, primary three, primary four. You can't just start from primary four and come back to primary one. These are just procedure. Interchangeably, we use a process, practice, or work practice instead of the procedure. A process or practice instead of procedures. All these are made use of in the policy because there will be a procedure to follow for you to do certain things. There will be a strategy for you to follow for you to get to that your destination or to achieve the objectives of what you tend to gain for that particular policy. Then briefly, I will also say something about guidelines. A guideline provides general guidance and additional advice and support for policies or standards or procedures. It's just an additional advice. It's just a general guidance, like the name suggests, the guidelines. What are the guidelines for this election? The guidelines for this course. The coordinator will have discussed with you the guidelines for this course. When we have, let me just go through, let me go to when we have exams, there are also instructions or there are guidelines that you need to follow. Some exam questions will have guidelines, the way to do them. So these are a kind of guidance for instruction. They are kind of guidance for us, like additional information. We know we are going to write the exams. We know we are going to write the exams, but the instructor can say, out of 5 questions, please answer 3 questions. You know, that is a guidance for you. But you cannot claim to say you know everything. You want to answer the 5 questions. If you answer the 5 questions, which means in the first instance, you are not following the guideline. You are not following the guideline. Another instructor may say that of all these options, pick the one you think is the best or is the correct answer. That is a guideline, because that one will guide you, will give you information, will give you additional advice. You already know, you have read. You know everything in your head. Everything you are saturated already. But now you want to pour it down. The examiner is not expecting you to pour everything down verbatim. The examiner will restrict your movement, so to say. The examiner will want to guide you and say, this is the way I want it to be done. If you do it otherwise, you may not get the right answer and you may not get the right mark. And that may lead that a guideline will provide a kind of guidance and additional advice and support for policies and or standards or procedures for us to use. So that could just be explained by a triangular diagram, like where the guideline is at the peak, the procedure follows, the standard also follow, the policy is at the base, just like a pyramid. You know the Maslow hierarchy of needs, just like that. The policy will be at the base. The policy is so broad because it comprises so many things that from the policy we can generate or we can have law. When we have law, and what the policy does is why are we where we are? Why is this happening to us? Why do we need to change our situation for better? So the policy answers those questions. Why? The policy answers the questions why. Why the standard, the law talks about the standard. That's the next level. That is in a diagrammatical way now. The standard, the law is about the standard, and that answers the question what. This is followed by procedure. The procedure now answers the question how. How. Then the last one, which is narrow, which is the one on the top of the pyramid, is guideline, which just gives information. It gives information, which means the information the information that one gives is narrow. It's not that broad. But the information you can get about policy is so broad. That is why it forms the base. So when we have further interaction, we can discuss better on this. This is just to put in a diagram for you to understand. So like I said policy say, why do I need to do that? Standard says, what is required of me? Procedure say, how do I do it? Step by step. Then guidelines say, for your information. This is for your information. You don't forget, it's an advice. It's additional advice. It's instruction. It's support. It's guidance. That is why it's just for your information. So the policy is the broadest there, and that is followed by the law, followed by procedure, as well as the guideline, So as it is now, we'll now go to our main thing. All the one I've been explaining, they are just background to our course. So we want to take what is social welfare now. What is social welfare? Sorry, just a minute. What is social welfare? Yes, can anybody just let me know what he or she understand by the social welfare with all I've explained? Yes, what is social welfare? Sorry, just a minute. Give me 1 minute. Sorry. So I need to let us know what social welfare is. uh, you are not satisfied with the situation of the people or with the living standard of the people, you want to improve it. Those programs, those actions, those activities, projects, and everything, and the policy that are put together, they are at times they are used to describe the kind of social welfare that the government is being is giving to its citizens, and this cuts across a wide range of government actions and activities. Again, it has also been defined as an organized system of social services, programs, and institutions designed to aid individuals or groups in order for them to attain satisfying standards of life and health. I want you to note that to attain satisfying standards of life and health, you know, you have a certain standard, you have an existing standard, but is that standard, is it satisfying enough? Is it satisfying enough? So when such programs or services are designed to ensure that an individual attains satisfying standard of living or of life and health, that is a social welfare. And at times, it is also targeted at disadvantaged group or disadvantaged people or people in disadvantaged position in the society. We have people that are called special populations. There are people that are disadvantaged. There are people that are less privileged, and so on and so forth. So all these people are put into consideration while the social welfare programs or policies are being designed. The goal of social welfare is to fulfill the social, financial, health, and recreation requirements of all individuals in the society. All individuals. Don't forget that every person in the society is important. So whether you have or you don't have, you are an important element of that society. Social welfare also seeks to enhance the social functioning of all age groups, both rich and poor. These are just trying to define what social welfare means to some, to different people. Research has consistently shown that the extent to which a state performs its social welfare functions will determine the extent of stability of such state and the level at which citizens accept the legitimacy of government authority to social welfare. Most people still believe that social welfare is the primary purpose of government. And of course, I want to agree with that, because when government can provide social welfare services for its citizens, then we'll see it as that government being sensitive and being responsible and being responsive to the yearnings of its citizens. Because when social welfare sector is well taken care of, we can see it we can see that government as performing its primary responsibility, and that is the purpose of a government. When you read chapter 2 of the 1999 constitution as amended, you will see that the primary responsibility of government majorly is about social welfare. And when government performs its social welfare function very well, that one will let us know the extent of the stability of that government. You know, the kind of protest that the NLC organized as a result of oil subsidy removal, and the agitation that is still even going on for salary increase or for the new minimum wage, or some of them call it living wage. That agitation is there, is as a result of the fact that if that is done properly, then the stability of government will also be ascertained. It will be ascertained and it will be guaranteed. Anyhow, I want to adopt the definition given by the United Nations in 1967 while defining social welfare. It says social welfare as a body of activities designed to enable individuals, families, groups, and communities to cope with the social problems of changing conditions. That is, it refers to those body of activity, range of activities that are designed to enable, they are designed to enable individuals, families, groups, and communities to cope with the social problems of changing conditions, because conditions are not static. Our conditions change. Most time, our conditions change. As a result of that, we need to prepare individual, group, or family to enable them cope with such changing situations. So in that wise, those programs that are designed, they are called social welfare as defined by the United Nations in 1967. Again, it adds, but in addition to, and extending beyond the range of its responsibilities for societal services, social welfare has a fantastic function within the broad area of country social development. In this larger service, social welfare, in this larger service, the social welfare should play a major role in continuity to the effective mobilization and development of human and material resources of the country to deal successfully with social requirements of change, thereby participating in nation building. So when social welfare services are provided for adequately, there's going to be nation building. It will aid nation building and society will be better for it. What is social welfare policy? Many definitions abound on social welfare policy also as an important concept, and as an important concept. So Walker, 1981, defined social policy as government program of action for redistributing resources to those largely marginalized in the economic system. I want you to note that, I want you to note some key words there. Redistributing resources to those largely marginalized in the economic system. So which means the resources are not equally distributed. So the social welfare policy, when it is well formulated, will redistribute those resources to those that have been marginalized. Today in Nigeria, many ethnic groups are claiming that they are marginalized. The people in the Southeast, they have claimed and they are still claiming that they have been marginalized. The last regime, they claimed that they were marginalized. So how best did government address their marginalization claim? So the government is in the position to ensure that the resources are well redistributed. Look at all resources. The major earning of government, I think about 90% or 95%, I do not have the correct statistics of the federal government earnings come from the oil resources. The oil resources, they are where they are located, we get them from the South, most especially. So what we get from the South, the government does not leave South alone to enjoy the resources, because these resources are not found in other places, in other parts of the country. What did the government do? Government now redistributes. Whatever money they get from there, they distribute to all tiers of government. They distribute to federal government. They distribute to state government as well as local government. But where that the resources are found, they are giving them derivation. They are giving them derivation fund through the derivation formula. I think it's 13% derivation formula, and that is being given to those areas producing the oil. So that is a social policy that is in practice there, because the resources are being redistributed. If those resources are not redistributed to some of us that do not produce the oil, which means we will starve to death, and the essence of government will be will not be there again, which means the essence of government will be eroded. So again, that this definition also, that social policy includes all policies designed to govern inter-societal relationship and the quality of life or level of well-being in society. Remember, we talk about healthy life. We talk about a life. We talk about satisfying standard of life. We talk about well-being here. We talk about the quality of life or level of well-being in society, how best that can be improved. These include principles that are adopted and pursued by governments or society, as well as by various units within societies. In the third world, social welfare policy may be defined as any government social welfare action that is designed and supported by a legislation for the purpose of improving the condition of people, addressing poverty and material deprivation, redressing perceived or real economic marginalization in a country, or setting standard for sustainable human development that has local or global coverage. All this, we have been saying it since we began this class. Most policies that are usually made by the government or introduced by country are usually targeted addressing problems of poverty, epidemics, refugee, everything. Especially in the third world country, they are mostly targeted at addressing problems. Remember, we said one of the key elements in the policy is what? Is problem identification or problem definition. The policy are also meant to lift a larger number of poor people to a higher level of economic well-being. That is the essence of the policy. So the social welfare services in Nigeria are provided by a family system. Within the family, the head of the family will ensure that his family is well taken care of and is doing fine. He looks after the welfare of his family members. That is the family system providing that. The extended family, the nuclear family, or the compound or whatever. So they look at the welfare of their members, of their constituents. Then again, the voluntary agencies too, they also provide social welfare services. Such voluntary agencies like the missionary and international agencies, the religious group, and so on and so forth. All these are voluntary agencies that look after the welfare of their members. The Christian churches, the Muslim mosques, and so on and so forth. They also provide social welfare services to their members or to their congregation or to anybody, to their adherents. Then again, the government too. The government is the best of provider of social welfare services in this regard. So we have a number of social welfare policies in place in the country. So we can talk about healthcare policy. We can talk about empowerment policy. We can talk about housing and housing policies. Of course, you know that is addressing the sector of the citizen. You know, the federal government or state government, they have different ministry of housing and urban development and so on and so forth. All these are created to address the problem of inadequate housing or inadequate sector. Then there are programs that are also geared towards assisting the poor, unemployed, and marginalized in the society. Of course, You have heard, of course, it's not news that we have this agency of government that is providing, that is claiming to be providing jobs for unemployed. And what is that agency? The National Directorate of Employment. I wouldn't know the extent to which they provide this employment to the teeming unemployed youth in the country. That extent is going to be determined later. So, but government intention of establishing that particular agency is to address the problem of the unemployed, because the government identified the problem of unemployment then. They now establish National Directorate of Employment. But go through the statistics, go and find out whether that agency is living up to the expectation. A policy established that. And implementing that policy has become a problem to the country. Then we also see many policy addressing the welfare of the people. We have many policies addressing the welfare of the citizens. Of recent, there is a comprehensive policy in place now that the federal government is using, which is National Social Protection Policy, which addresses all the social welfare programs and everything. It's a comprehensive document that has taken into recognition or into cognizance all the programs, all the policies that the federal government had formulated before 2017 or so, or before 2015, or that formulated before 2017, addressing the social welfare issues of the people. In this policy, all these cash transfer programs, the palliative for the elders, palliative for the unemployed, that is public work for the youth, and so many other things are in that policy, are trying to make life better for the less or for the disadvantaged group in the society, the elderly, the widows, the orphans, the unemployed youth, and so on and so forth. But the implementation strategy is another thing. It's another bottleneck. The implementation strategy is another bottleneck. When you see the document, it's a beautiful document, well articulated, well composed, well formulated, with clear objectives, but the implementation and clear strategies to achieve it. But the implementation is the problem. Look at the conditional cash grant that is being given even recently. It has been in operation since the time of President Muhammadu Buhari. Every month, the beneficiary will just take maybe 20,000 or 10,000 every month. Those that have been identified through the social register, they have been identified. Those that actually met the requirement, there are criteria set in that document that for you to enjoy for you to be beneficiary of these are the requirements. These are criteria you must fulfill. Those who fulfill that, they capture their names in the social register. There is what we call the social register. In the social register, when their names appear in that social register, they pick the beneficiary from the social register, and they do this batch by batch. Even since the inception of this present government, there is a cash support program that is called Renew Hope Cash Support something. Is captioned under the Renew Hope program, and that is part of a social welfare package that is meant for the less disadvantaged group, or the marginalized, or the poor people in the society in this country, as the case may be. So these are some of the policies that are in place in the country. And don't forget that the main goal of social welfare policy is to protect individuals from poverty and relative deprivation at minimum. And ambitiously, policy is aimed at providing the general welfare and well-being of the population. That when you look at it at the larger level, well, then we can talk about promoting the welfare of and the well-being of the entire population. Because as we talk now, there are beneficiaries of all these programs I've talked about. There are beneficiaries, and some are still enjoying that those services up to this present moment, and some will also enjoy it tomorrow. But alas, you see what happened to the former Minister of Humanitarian Service. Ooh, the ministry that is in charge is the #1 person in charge of that social welfare program. The Ministry of Humanitarian and is it a Ministry of Humanitarian and Social Welfare, or so to say? What happened? Look at the billions of naira that have been diverted fraudulently to private pockets. And you can see, and Mr. President acted immediately by removing her or suspending her for the EFCC and other investigating agency to look at the roots, to get to the root of that embarrassment, so to say. So the social protection policy for Nigeria, like I mentioned, is an umbrella policy framework that incorporates a related social agenda paradigm intended to reduce poverty and provide a life of dignity for all citizens. Providing life of dignity for all citizens. The dignity is not reserved for a few. The dignity is not reserved for a cabal. The dignity is for all of us, because we are looking at egalitarian society where everybody is equal before the law, where everybody has equal access to resources of this nation. That is why these are some of the objectives of the social protection policy. The intention is to reduce poverty and provide a life of dignity for all citizens, because it has there is a paradigm shift from what it used to be. So they want everything to be okay, so that the gap between the rich and the poor will be closed, or that gap will be filled, and there will be no more wars. There will only be bridges that will connect everybody. So that is what that policy is trying to achieve. So when you get a copy of the policy, you go through it, and you will understand more about what that policy is talking about, and what it has achieved, and what it can also achieve in future. We also have youth policy, we have gender policy, as I mentioned earlier, the child rights policy, and so on and so forth. So many policies. You can Google, you see so many policies, especially you can also get this from the Ministry of Women Affairs, Ministry of Social Development. Even in your state, you can also find out in your state of operation or where you reside, you find out what policies are in place to address the social well-being of the citizens of that state, or of the inhabitants of the indigene of that state, or the resident of that state, or even the citizens of Nigeria. Go to the Federal Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs. You can also get to know the register of those that have benefited even from all these social welfare packages I've been talking about. You can Google, visit their website. You can get all this information there. Different ministries, different state, different relevant state ministries can also provide you with all this information. Then you get to know that the government is trying in formulating policies. It is only the implementation that we have problem with. And again, when there is a change in government, we always experience what we call policy somersault. The policy somersault will always happen when there is no continuity in government, or even when a government changes. That is, when one party rule in the last regime and the other party is coming in this tenure, even within the same party, you see what is happening in Rivers State now. There have been reversal of so many policies. Look at what is happening in Abia as well, in so many other states like that. Look at what is happening in Abia. and in many other states. Look at what happened in Osun as well. When Aregbesola was the governor, his chief of staff succeeded him when he left. The chief of staff succeeded him. The policies that had been put in place by Aregbesola administration, some of these policies were reversed. That's the policy somersault. It means that the policy were not properly formulated, were not well thought of while they were formulating that policy. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, I want to pause at this point so that we can take questions and answers, we can take comments, we can take your own contribution, and we'll continue from here next time or next week when we have the opportunity of meeting. I thank you most sincerely. So if you have questions, you have comments, you can please just raise your hand. Let me see your hand, and I get you unmute and you speak out. Thank you. Yes, hello. If you want to speak, you can unmute, please. You can unmute and speak out.
Hello, good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon. Just introduce yourself. Let me know the person talking.
All right, my name is Sam Akinwale.
It's all right. Please go ahead.
I'm the class governor. We really want to appreciate you for, this lecture. It's really insightful, and it's a wonderful moment kicking up this course. Sir, we want to plead that you kindly send us the course material so that at least we can start studying, while we engage in the classroom activities as well, sir.
All right, no problem. I will do that as soon as I try to update this material.
All right, sir.
So don't worry, it will get to you. You can private chat me so that I can have your number.
All right, sir. All right, sir.
Okay. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, so any other question or comments?
Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon.
Samuel Adelabu is my name, sir.
All right.
I really do enjoy the
welcome.
class. I want to say thank you. God bless you, sir. There was a part I missed that maybe because of my network, when you mentioned type of policy we have, public policy, organizational policy. So my network was disrupted. I couldn't hear the third and the fourth one you mentioned, sir.
Okay, I mentioned specific policies.
Okay, sir.
Yeah, specific. There are policies that are specific, that are specifically designed to address a particular problem that is not that general.
Okay, sir. Okay, sir.
For instance, if we are talking about oil subsidy now, that policy will purely address the oil subsidy regime.
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. We want to talk about maybe the child policy. So nothing else will be added to that except anything that has to do with child upbringing, child rearing, and what do we call it, and domestic violence or child abuse, and so on and so forth. If it is women, if it is on women, it has to be with maybe domestic violence against women, women trafficking, and so on and so forth. It could be a policy on women trafficking. So definitely that policy will be addressing trafficking in women alone. We will not be talking about other things. That is what it means.
Thank you, sir.
You are welcome. Well, if there's no other question, I want to believe this is going to be a convenient point for me, a convenient place for me to stop today, so that by next week we'll continue from here. So I want to thank you once again. So until that time, I pray that Almighty God spare our life beyond that period and remain blessed. Thank you.
Amen. Thank you,
Bye-bye.
sir.
Amen. Thank you,
Thank
sir.
you, sir.
Thank you.
Sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.